Hey Rajiv, how you doing today?
I'm good, Simon. Thank you very much. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thanks. Yeah, really
Great.
good on this kind of dank Tuesday, but we've got good spirits in the office today.
Mhm. Lovely.
Hey, look, great to have you on today. I know we've known each other now for sort of a handful of years, I guess. I think originally through Neil Brookman, I think, from
Absolutely. Yes.
both your times at Treasure Data,
Indeed.
which
Yes. Yeah.
I'm sure would have been a really interesting ride in that environment with that funding and the space at that point. So
Absolutely.
um, we had Neil on. For people that hadn't seen, we've had Neil Brookman, who's currently at MetaRouter, running their kind of EMEA organization, on a few weeks ago as
Mhm.
another episode, talking a little bit around go to market.
Mhm.
But obviously very excited today to have you on. Had a great experience having conversations with you, and everybody that I know has interacted with you. Just looking at your recommendations on LinkedIn,
Thank you.
speak extremely highly of your experience and input and value you bring to the customer success and post-sales organizations. So
Thank you.
yeah, we're really excited to sort of unpack some of this today. So
Thank you very much. Yeah.
yeah, no worries. So look, I guess look, as an introduction for people that don't know you, I mean, I know you've got a pretty varied experience that we'll, in your own words, we'll go into in a little bit, but that's spanning across different industries, including banking, financial services, environment, health and safety, environment, social and corporate and governance, and
Yeah.
also, relevant to kind of my space. And the reason we bumped into each other is around Martech, obviously in the
Indeed.
scale up and startup space.
Mhm.
Also AI,
Yes.
uh, big topic which we'll dive into. But I think you've been doing a little bit of freelancing, I believe. Is that right in the
That's
space?
correct. Yes. So in between jobs, I've managed to work with with Gradient Ascent AI, who are it's a Canadian-based AI services business. They've been around for 7 years, and they've done numerous projects helping businesses understand how to utilize AI for their to gain value. Right. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Amazing. And I think you're pretty involved in the startup sort of mentoring scene. Is that right as well?
Yeah, on and off, not as active as I'd like to be. So
Yeah.
holding down a full time job with two kids, you don't get to do that as often as you want to. But
Yeah.
whenever I get an opportunity, absolutely help, founders with a bit of advice around customer success, professional services, how
Great.
they might want to shape it with the strategy as they scale. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Great. Well, giving back to the community, which is great to hear.
Absolutely.
Um, I guess on that point, you kind of described yourself as sort of a compassionate and empathetic, growth orientated leader,
Yeah.
mainly an ideas guy who continuously looks to improve processes and build great teams.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously that's a great, a great kind of, one-liner to what we're about to hear. So, um, I know it's a busy period for you guys. I was just chatting just before we went live there. I think you're sort of consistently busy, but you said things are picking up
Yeah.
in recent weeks, which is brilliant to hear.
Mhm.
Mean that absolutely sincerely.
Mhm.
Um, and I believe you just also had a house move.
I did.
Um,
Yes.
so is it like behind, like away from the screen that we can see now, there's just boxes everywhere, or are you somewhat
Indeed. Yes,
unpacked?
there are. Believe me, yes. I struggled to find this jacket this morning. I had to dig up a box for that. So yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's all half hazard for now, but hopefully settle in before Christmas.
Okay, well, great. Look, I appreciate scrambling to make time and obviously making the time to record this episode. So,
Yeah.
um, I guess, look, uh, more generally speaking,
Yeah.
the series of episodes talking about giving back to the community, like the series of episodes that we're doing over here at Thornton Gregory is all about bringing subject matter experts, thought leaders within respective parts of the Martech and scale up and startup space.
Uh-huh.
So talking about different topics,
Indeed.
talking about things around customer success professional services, which is what today's about, but also we've done episodes around RevOps, sales enablement, go to market, business development, building outbound engines, all of the kind of stuff that we're really hoping that
Indeed.
we'll be able to, help other people on their journeys within these respective niches. Just some of these little, anecdotes, stories, learnings, I guess, over the 10 plus years of experience that yourself and, your peers that we're bringing onto the episodes can share.
Thank you.
We're really trying to sort of amplify that out into the space. So,
Great.
customer success and I was reading a lot around this and before the episode, doing my research, it seems to be one of these really, really, really sort of golden metrics in SaaS at the moment, the NRR number. Okay.
Yes.
I'm sure you see it every day. You're talking about it every day with well, maybe not your customers, but certainly internally with your stakeholders. So I guess those that don't know that, Rajiv, what does that stand for? I mean, I know, but what does NRR?
Net retention revenue is essentially how much of your existing customer base do you retain year on year, right? So imagine you gain 100 customers in year one, right? But in year two, you're not looking after those customers. In year two, you end up losing 50 of those customers. What does that mean? You have to then acquire 50 customers just to break even and be at the same point that you were at last year, right? So all your efforts that go into your go-to-market organization can be nullified if you don't really look after your existing customer, right? Life becomes more fickle and fickle with SaaS subscription. Back in the day, you have to get the software installed. It was a long exercise, and it was not as easy for customers or businesses to offload any platform that they've bought, right? In SaaS today, you buy something, you integrate it. A good SaaS platform would be integrated within 3 months, 3 to 6 months. You start getting value out of it. So it's quick to onboard, but it's also quick and easy to offboard, right?
Yeah.
So that's where the key customer success org kind of comes in, where they really keep that ongoing relationship with the customer. They share the innovation that the business is doing with the customer. They really look into how to increase the value that the customer is getting. At the same time, see if there are avenues where the relationship can grow, right? So your upsells and your cross sells. So NRR is the key metric for any customer success org, and it can really have a major impact, especially in today's down market, right? I mean, we've been all seeing it for the last 18 months. It is becoming more and more crucial how businesses devise their strategy to retain, not just retain, but grow existing customers, because majority of the growth is going to come from there.
Brilliant. That's amazing little, description of that, and the importance of that. And you mentioned there about in the down market. I mean, I'd argue in any market, but certainly people are having so much focus at the moment on existing because, candidly, new business is so difficult. Projects are hard to come by. So, we'll talk about the sort of tech in the space, but when I was doing the research, and I try and lift a few stats to set the scene on these kind of topics, but there's actually a new space. I mean, from a recruitment perspective, it's really, really interesting, right? And it's another acronym to add to the big bucket of acronyms that we already talk about. And it's a CSP, and that stands for Customer Success Platform. There's a whole bunch of companies, some really well-funded American businesses, well-known, like Gainsight, and some emerging brands and vendors, which are doing some amazing stuff that I think we're going to touch on a bit later. But they're trying to tackle and create automation and create data and dashboards and bespoke tools to enable customer success to be more efficient and effective with their customer base, driving the NRR number up.
Absolutely.
Right? Some of the things that I found, and Delanca will probably kill me, but the Vitali is one of their competitors, but they wrote a report which had loads of cool stats in it, and I'll just take 4 of about 50. Right. First one was a well-designed customer success program can yield a 91% ROI over a 3-year period.
Indeed.
A second one is a 5% increase in retention rates can lead to a 25% increase in profitability. Okay. Third one is 37% of companies don't have a clearly defined customer success strategy. And the last one here is only 7% of companies actively track their customer health scores. So that's quite eye-opening, in terms of those metrics. The other one is another company in the space called Churn Zero, and it says a focus on the post-sales experience can 6x your revenue. Man.
Yeah.
Satisfied customers typically buy more, and 86% indicate they're willing to actually pay a higher price for
Mhm.
that positive experience with the brand.
Yeah.
So just like, I know they're kind of just numbers in the end of the day, but hopefully that kind of sets the scene alongside your description of NRR about how important this is.
Indeed.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. The post-sale experience is very crucial. I really agree with that stat.
Yep.
And especially in the MarTech space and CDP space, what I've seen over the last 5, 6 years is that implementations are the key points where you can actually make or break the relationship. If you have a CSM who's managing that overall relationship along with your professional services org, that can really, really help manage that relationship, right? Because what is the end goal that the customer is trying to achieve by implementing your platform? What's the key value? What are the key performance indicators that they're measuring using your platform, right? And if the implementation is not up to scratch, it can very easily make or break the relationship, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's our spot on.
No, great. Okay, well, look, let's dive in. I mean, that gives the kind of sets the scene, gives the backdrop. So let's
Mhm.
dive into this. I mean, I've given just a very high level background on yourself and why we've invited you onto the show. But maybe for the people that don't know you, can you just run us through, in your own words, a little bit about your experience and career to date?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I'm Rajiv, born and brought up in India, moved to the UK about 17, 18 years ago to complete my master's up in the north in Newcastle. And from there, I started into my first role in a contact center with Santander. So that was my financial services experience. And in that's where I kind of learned the base, because you're talking to customers every day. Although you cannot see them, you're not as attached to them as in the B2B world. You are essentially dealing with customers on a day-to-day basis. And it's about the end of the call where the customer tells you that, hey, you really helped me today. Thank you. It's about that small interaction that you're having with someone over the phone, resolving their problem. That's where my foundation was. And that's where I realized as a person that, like, hey, I really like it, right? I mean, it's what makes me happy at the end of the day. So was at Santander, progressed through the 4 years I was there, from a contact center agent to a team lead to a service delivery manager, where we were looking after about 1,600 agents all over the world. And the next opportunity that I got to get into the B2B world was with Insulex, a Canadian organization, and ESG. They were quite pioneers back in the day. I mean, if you think about the importance of it today, they had already been doing it for 11 years before I joined them, right? So brilliant organization. I got an opportunity to work in Canada for over a year, and great experience. From there I moved on to Walter Kluwer, which was an internal and external audit platform. Again, great organization to work for. And that was my first true role as a CSM, right? I mean, that's where I was able to design strategies, implement them. They had huge customer base across EMEA. So I was dealing with a lot of partners, a lot of customers directly. And then, from there, about 5 years into that role, I wanted a new challenge. And that's where I kind of dived into the MarTech world. I got an opportunity, referral through a friend, to join Exponia, uh, a CDP. Back then, they were called a CDP, and that was my first experience in the Martech world, but it was actually a very positive one. I was responsible for making helping the customers realize the best value that they can actually get out of a CDP platform. So my learning is an extremely steep curve over the first couple of months. But once I settled into the role, it was really great to see how we can actually really help the customers, right? From there, Exponia, unfortunately, pandemic didn't really work out so well for them. From there, I moved on to Treasure Data, enterprise customer data platform. And that's where I got my main experience as a people's leader, where I managed a team of TAMs, CSMs, and account managers, and was then able to, and then, unfortunately in the down market, again, layoffs happen. And that's how I got the opportunity to join Redpoint, with whom I'm today. And Redpoint is actually, like, if you think about it, a culmination of all the skills that I've acquired over the last 15 years, which I can apply. So I'm leading the professional services as well as the customer success team, or well, kind of starting the customer success team, scaling it here in the region, to really link the two, right? How do you create seamless experience for a customer with help of a CSM as well as the professional services team, right? Like the PS team, every organization has different way they want to create a PS org, right? You have your solution architects, you have your consultants, you have your solution consultants, and you combine all these. But then how do you make a CSM really work with these guys and be the bridge between the customer and the PS org, right? And what we touched upon before is really improve the customer experience so that the implementation is smooth, right? So yeah, that's where I'm at today.
Great, thank you for that.
Thank you.
That's super cool. Yeah, I guess, look, to dig into that a little bit further, do you think any of your sort of early experiences or mentors or environments amongst that journey
Absolutely.
really stood out as sort of enabling you to sort of climb the ranks and grow as a person and professionally or personally?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I've been very lucky. I've always had brilliant managers, right? I still, I still talk to them, to all of them, right? Always kind of looking for advice, always looking for guidance, and it's one thing that has been common in amongst all the leaders that I've worked for is they were really empathetic towards me, my situation, and towards the team overall, right? You have to be to understand that at the end of the day, it's a person that you're working with. You're spending 8 hours a day, 8, 9, 10 hours a day with them, right? You're spending more time with them awake than you are with anyone else in your life, right? It may be your wife or your kids or your family, and that's kind of a base to understand, right? If you don't really understand that, how that person is feeling or how that person is really uh, what kind of an environment to provide to the team so that they can be their best, you're not really going to be able to have a productive organization, right? Like they're not going to be able to really give their 100% into the work that they are doing. And
Yeah.
that's what's kind of shaped the entirety of me, right? You have to be honest. Your integrity. You have to have a very strong work ethic, and you have to be 100% empathetic towards everyone that you work with.
Yeah, I mean, they're great pillars for any manager or aspiring manager that's listening. I mentioned it before, but you've got a brilliant reference from Amit from Treasure Data on your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So I know I guess he was directly managing you during that time at Treasure Data. Is that right?
Part of it, yes,
Part of it,
absolutely.
yeah.
I was reporting directly into him, and he really supported me in during a huge changes that were happening throughout the
Yeah.
business. Change of the entire management structure, change in processes, and yeah, he was quite key to making sure that I'm comfortable with all these changes, and take suggestions and make it more interactive rather than top down.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Absolutely.
So just to go back a little bit, so you came into the space through Exponia, yeah,
Mhm.
which was a fantastic story in itself, right? I know
Yeah.
you mentioned the COVID and the downturn, didn't support that kind of exponential growth like most, right? But
Yeah.
you spent 5 years in the CDP space across now 3 different vendors. So seeing that space change,
Yeah.
like how have you personally seen the space evolve over that period?
Oh, massively, massively. I still remember. I mean, being a wide-eyed newbie in the Martech world back in 2018. I attended a company all hands where the CEO at that time, Peter, he basically was like, "Okay, guys, we've got 30 competitors in the space. There are 30 businesses out there. It's quite nice. It's a healthy competition. There's a lot for everyone to get." And our focus is this particular vertical. Theirs was fast fashion, um, and a few other verticals. The key one being fast fashion, and like this is what the market wants today. Like they want direct to consumer. Like it was B2C organizations who were really looking at it. And then as time went by, there were the business was exploring various verticals such as oh, what about banking, or what about insurance, or what about travel and hospitality. But that was not really happening. But then, as time went by, as customer data platforms started becoming more prominent, what we started seeing was all these organizations realizing the importance of a very solid, strong customer data platform, where they really need that to consolidate all their customer data into one place, create that golden record, right? And B, to be able to govern that. So we started seeing highly regulated industries such as insurance and banking and healthcare coming into the market looking for a consumer data platform, right? I mean, you call it customer data, consumer data, depends on how the business defines it. And then one thing that I've seen at Redpoint specifically is they are really set up to cater to these highly regulated organizations, right? Because it's not easy having to work with a bank or a national bank who's really having to follow the letter of the government by the book, excuse me. So um, and today I remember in one of my early company calls, all hands with at Redpoint, um, the CEO basically shared that okay, there are 160 businesses out there who are claiming to be customer data platforms, right? But are they really customer data platform? Are they doing the entire spectrum, right? So the way our CPO Ian Clayton described the market was that it's in the trough. CDP industry right now is in the trough of disillusionment. Everyone wants to call themselves a CDP, although they are good. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that this is a bad business. Everyone is doing a great job, but it's about what part of that they're doing. Parts of a CDP. They're not being it's not right to describe yourself as a platform unless you're doing the entirety of the spectrum, right? You're bringing data in, you're cleansing it, you are putting it in a readable format, you're creating that golden customer, like that golden record for your consumer, right? And then using that not just to provide marketing insights, but then it can be used by any other part of the business, right? That's when you really become that composable customer data platform, right? That's what Redpoint is really poised to be. I can see the difference, like between all the businesses that I've worked for, that you are really able to be. It's like an open garden concept, right? Doesn't matter what technology you use. It could be a Microsoft org, it could be an AWS org, it could be a Google org. But then to be able to create that golden customer record, right? Some of the customers, actually, Avis Budget Group, one of the Redpoint customers, they've actually created a golden record for each of their vehicles, not a person, but how each individual vehicle, like a car or a van or a truck, how they've created a golden record for that, right? Redpoint allows you to do like a household golden customer record as well. So we are not just looking at an individual golden record. We are looking at households. We look like who are the person related to, the devices, things like that, and be able to really create that informative view for a marketeer or a data science organization or anyone in the business who's willing to use that data.
Awesome. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear when I asked that question. The like from a recruitment standpoint, I see it like I see companies pivoting their marketing like a gold rush.
Yeah.
They're just like CDP. I've got to be a CDP or a CDI or some sort of similar sort of products roadmap to kind of to grab some of that market share, which is creating so much noise.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now I know as a company that was born in the space like Redpoint has been, that must be so frustrating from a sort of buyer paralysis, sort of perspective. But
Indeed.
I think, as you say, these kind of sort of faux CDPs
Yes.
are getting found out, aren't they? You know, when
Oh
they're
yeah.
getting into these competitive sort of RFPs, and you're right, they're ticking some of the boxes, bare
Yeah.
minimum,
Yeah.
right? But you know, certainly in the enterprise space, you know, would you say that you really only have a handful of competitors of that 150 that can be as comprehensive as what you're talking about with the Redpoint platform?
Absolutely. I think about 5 or 6, not more than that.
Yeah.
You have
Okay.
to be able to handle that level of data. You have to be able to have the compute power to process billions, trillions lines worth of data
Mm,
instantaneously, or very quickly, to be able to cater to these enterprise customers, right? I mean, they're not going to wait. Right? They're not going to, and they do thorough POCs, they do thorough testing before they say yes to anything, right?
yeah.
And market, and especially in this down market, one thing I've seen, which I saw October last year, and which I continue to see today, is 2020. All the businesses thought that tech was booming. Everyone was buying every single platform available. They were buying multiple platforms to do one thing each, and then tying all this together, spending that time and effort. In the down market, when consumers are not spending, they're not making money. They're basically saying, "Oh, wait a minute, let's consolidate." Right? We are seeing, so 2023 and maybe even a part of 2024 would probably go down in history as year of consolidation, right?
Mm,
Where people are really shrinking their IT for their software footprints to consolidate all the platforms that they have, utilize the ones they have to the maximum potential, and then make sure that they are spending wisely, right? And this is where the four CDPs, I even don't like to call them that. They are, they're healthy competitors. They are good softwares on their own. Our founders would have shed blood and tears to build something. So I would not like to, uh, say anything negative towards them. But yes, they do get caught out, right? I mean, unless you're doing the best of 100% that you promise a customer that you're doing, you will win. Otherwise, so it's best of breed are the ones who are going to survive, right?
mm.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think the due diligence nowadays on that, you know, as you say, the amount of eyes and the amount that's at risk to say yes to this kind of software as well, isn't it? Because it's like so integral of plumbing everything together.
Absolutely,
But
absolutely.
look, I mean, you know, it's fair game out there, and it's, you know, marketing, you know, dollars in marketing, and that narrative around the space, and there's clever marketeers, but
Yeah,
yeah, I think you're right. I think over time, you
yeah.
know, there's obviously been this boom.
Mhm.
There's going to be this kind of consolidation, and then, you know, some companies are going to have to repivot. Some
Yeah,
companies will fall away, right?
indeed, indeed.
Um, I certainly don't think, from my research and from speaking to you offline about the Redpoint, that's, you know, you guys are very well positioned.
Yeah,
So you, just in terms of the like more generally speaking, customer success.
hmm,
So how has that space changed over the time you've been involved with it?
right. So obviously, when I first graduated from uni, got into my first job, didn't have, as quite a few people. I mean, I was clueless. I know kids these days, they are really on it. I see a lot of young talent, sharing strategy on LinkedIn and this, that, and the other. I was not like that, right? We didn't have LinkedIn back in our days. We had Indeed and those kind of job sites where we got your job descriptions from, and there was not that much internet prevalent back then. Um, First time I came around customer success was I was looking at a video on YouTube of Salesforce sales kickoff or something like that, or a Salesforce event where one of their guys basically they were celebrating a huge year where they had completely smashed the targets. Everyone was kind of really happy, and this one guy turns around and says, "Right, so we are absolutely doomed to fail if we do not maintain these customers," right? And the entire room just went silence. Imagine a Salesforce kickoff in 2011, 2010 time. Everyone has a glass of champagne, and then suddenly everything goes quiet, right? So that was when the first kind of inception of customer success started. right? Initially, for the first few years, it was client relations, right? That's what my title was at Teammate. But then eventually it kind of evolved into customer success, because what you're trying to do is make a customer successful with the tool that they're using, okay? And then what I've seen change over time is playbooks come into play. We've seen a lot of processes come into play. People are doing a lot of experimenting. We are seeing a lot of strategy building. So today, if I go out into the market, I get asked the question as a CS leader. If I want a job, I get asked the leader, do you have a playbook? What's your strategy? This is our consumer base. How are you going to handle that? Right? These are the kind of questions that I get asked regularly. So, as a CSM, to any young listeners out there, if you want to really grow and head towards a leadership position, you need to learn and record everything that's happening, right? And then keep these strategies in your back pocket to be able to change based on how the market is, right? Because in a down market, focus is towards CS. You have to be 100% efficient. You have to be able to deliver. If you churn a key customer, well, you know what's going to happen with that, right? So, and also there's two different. I think up until 2015-16, I saw two main kind of CS roles or types, if I can call it that, or categories. There was professional services oriented customer success, and then there was growth oriented customer success, right? So you had a CS or either reporting into a CRO or a professional VP of professional services, right? Very different approaches, very different skill sets, in fact, because for a growth oriented CS, you need a sales guy, essentially, who is able to not just identify opportunity, but is able to see that sale through. They need to know how to deal with legal. They need to know how to deal with deal desk, how they internally at least, right? And then same way with a customer, how to deal with the procurement, how to negotiate. These are the skill sets for a growth oriented CSM. For a professional service oriented CSM, you need to have a project management background. You need to be able to know how a project is going to be delivered, how to see it through, right? How to manage those expectations, how to make sure that the key goals are achieved, or you need to be able to design a SOW, a statement of work, right? So these are the two different kind of orgs that I've seen in my career. I'm lucky. I think I'm lucky to have had work for both types, probably equal measure throughout my career. But yes, that's the major changes I've seen in terms of CS and PS.
And do you think that comes with a company of a certain size that they make that definition, or do you think they can coexist in one profile?
It definitely depends, and it also depends on 100%. You know what? It depends on where the business is at in their journey, right? Initially, I think first, let's say 0 to 30 million. It's good to have CS going into PS, right?
Mm.
But as you have a solid base of customers, let's say you have 100 customers, that's when you need to start kind of opening up the doors to CS to actually move into the growth part of it. And again,
Yep.
focus is there, right? I mean, if you're let's say a founder has designed a platform, they start selling it, right? But they are ahead of their time. They're not the 100% market fit because the market is not there yet, right? When they get to that 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the line, when they get to that 100% market fit, I believe that's the key time where all the focus should go on to the sales part of it, where everyone in your business is selling, right? Versus putting a CSM in a PS org where they're just implementing, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
But again,
I
this is
think it's
personal opinion. I've seen different strategies work out at different times.
Yeah, no, it's good to share that definition, because I agree with you entirely. When we take on a kind of customer success role on here,
Yeah.
almost like very, very different from company to company, So you're right, they aren't all made equal.
Yeah.
There's definitely priorities around, product complexity, how technical the person needs to be. You're right, some of them are very kind of relationship and commercial facing. So I still don't think that sometimes founders, when we speak to them, know exactly what they need and want at that particular time. quite a lot of kind of education, maybe just from a kind of recruitment consulting background that like we can help them with, that can kind of ramp them quicker, attack some of those real pain points in the business or bottlenecks that they're seeing within their post-sales organization at that point.
Indeed.
So yeah, great points. In terms of the sort of customer success like organization, specifically, how do companies kind of manage different sizes of customer? Like, are there different? You talk about playbook and
Yeah.
playbook, yeah, like
Processes and playbooks. Yeah. Yeah.
processes, yeah. How do they do that effectively?
So, in my short 5 years of experience within Martech, I'll only refer to Martech because I know that's your focus. What I've
Thank you.
seen is I've worked for organizations who had 200 small customers, right, and maybe 5, 10 big customers, and then I worked for an organization where they had 10 huge customers and then 20 small customers, and then another organization where it was a mixed bag, right? The customer success strategy, according to me, is basically there's three key divisions or three key parts that you need to have within your CS org, which is enterprise. So your guys who have a bit of CS experience, but more of a CS sales experience, right? Where they are really those farmers, not your hunters. That's your sales org, but your farmers who are really able to sniff out these opportunities in every conversation that they're really having with their customers. That's your enterprise, right? They are really high flyers. They have very similar profile to a very successful AE, right? And they're able to really manage those relationships, be able to sit with a very senior stakeholder and tell them what they need or what they should be doing or what they should be thinking about 5 years down the line, right? You need those kind of enterprise. Those are the ones I would define as enterprise customer success managers, right? Then comes your mid-market customer success managers, who are the really hardworking ones, who are who are able to ready to do everything themselves, who are able to manage multiple customers, but then be able to shift focuses very quickly depending on who's buying, who's selling, or where where the most attention is needed, right? The reason I say this is enterprise customers are not going to leave as quickly as a mid-market or a small business, right? They're going to be there. That's not a high churn part of your business, right? Once an enterprise decides to buy, they're going to stick with you for a few years, right? With regards to mid-market, the shift happens a little bit quicker. So you need your sharpest minds in your mid-market, if that's the major chunk of your business, right? And then the last one is your digital customer success, right? Now, what is this? This is something I've only seen come up in the last 2 years. I'll be very honest. Maybe I'm a bit I'm a bit stupid, if I can say that, for not realizing or understanding this a lot sooner. But I've seen digital customer success come out in the last 2 years, and I've been reading left, right, and center wherever I can find something about it, because it's quite key. There are lots of businesses out there, right, who have individual subscribers, who have small sales teams, who are 5 or 10 individuals, so not huge in terms of revenue. But then the balance is it worth having one person look after that one customer? No, absolutely not. Like, you're wasting money, you're throwing money away. So the new thing that's come out in the market is digital customer success strategy, where a single CSM is managing 400 customers, right? Proactively communicating their utilization, their value by automated processes, right? And there are tons of tools out there who support these kind of things. And then you need and they are able to react very quickly, very nimble in how they interact with these customers. It might be reactive, but there's proactive element is you communicate actively every month. You're sending, at the end of the month, you're sending out stats to these customers, making sure that everything's fine, this, that, and the other, right? So each one of these categories, if you can call them that, enterprise, mid-market, and digital CSMs, you need a different approach, a different mindset, a different strategy, which should come from the leadership, and tool set, right? Like, tool set, I say you can have the same tool, but you need different playbooks for these customers, right? And then most importantly, you need different personalities, right? So your mid market and digital CS, you need a project manager who's organized, who's able to really handle multiple customers, multiple contacts. For your enterprise CS, you need a bit of a sales profile kind of thing. So that's what I've seen.
That's really cool. So it's like sort of almost like a self-service, low touch kind of
Absolutely. Yeah.
kind of model.
Yeah.
So you're talking about volume, like I assume AI and, as you say, automation plays a big role in that, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
More than AI, I mean, AI, I don't know because we've not seen that yet. But at least today, the tools we have, they are able to support things like this. They are able to send out a mass email, pick up the stats automated, create a dashboard, weave a dashboard together in an email, send it out to a customer, right? So things like this, they're really, really able to do that. So AI will certainly help and enable, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
guess, I mean, the future will dictate, but
exactly.
you know, maybe there's room there maybe for that to be a big enabler within what you're talking about there. I hate the term because it gets thrown around at the moment, but
Yeah.
doing more with less, isn't it? You know?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so that leads us really nicely onto the next question, which is just about how technology, like within your companies, how has technology,
Mhm.
like your tech stack as a CS leader,
Mhm.
how has that developed and helped you along the way?
Okay, yeah. So initially, I think at TeamMate, it was all spreadsheets and Word documents, right? I remember downloading a list of contacts from Salesforce, putting it into an Excel sheet, and then creating a Word document or creating a template email, which will automatically pull from the spreadsheet, populate emails with the name, very, very, very generic, but still a little bit personalized, and then send it out to the lowest to the customers who are like between 3,000 to 10,000 ARR, right?
Yeah,
And that was it. That Word, PowerPoint, Excel was what we used to use. Now it's brilliant, right? We've got Gainsight, who's like the leader, right? Everyone knows about Gainsight. I think
yeah,
Nick Mehta is connected. The founder is connected to like everyone on LinkedIn. I would
yeah,
love to see how many people he's connected to be very honest. But yes, but then, as you mentioned at the beginning of this talk, you have Churn Zero, you have Vitali. Did you say? Yeah,
yeah. Vitali's another one. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But then I've recently been a fan of Valaris, right? I've
yeah,
looked at the tool. It's brilliant. I know the founder, great guy. Overall, we are both mutually connected. We are both fans. So there's
Zelenka, is
huh?
that right? Sorry to
Belanga.
interrupt. Zelenka, yeah, Zelenka and Jose over there. Yeah, they're great guys for anybody
Great
that's
guys,
listening.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Belanga and
yeah,
Jose, so it's that, right? I mean, there are so many tools available out there. You can create your playbooks. It make my life a lot easier, right? Like because these guys, they're providing a custom CS platform, right? So their CSMs are absolutely brilliant to work with. They make my life a lot more easier, right? I've got my playbooks, I've got my people trained on it, I've got my processes ready, and I've got my dashboard ready. What else do I need, right? So yes, I mean, over the last 15 years, we've seen one thing. I was like, I've followed Delanka's journey for the last 3-4 years since I've known him,
yeah,
um, and it's a very niche space because yes, there are few competitors out there, but there's not many, right? I don't think there's more than 20 in that space. So
yep.
absolutely brilliant. I mean, loving the way CS as an org is being supported by all these tools out there. Um, and yeah, it
Yeah.
makes my life a lot easier.
As somebody that doesn't know exactly kind of what these tools do and don't use them,
Mhm.
do they enable you to see like enablement early? dangers of sort of churn? Like,
Yes.
how does it help you, like, specifically?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'll give you an example. So you can basically integrate these tools with your current CRM tools. So you integrate it with Salesforce, you integrate it with your observability platform like a App Dynamics or a New Relic, which tells you how much utilization is happening. You can then connect it to any other tool that you basically want. Your marketing tool as well. Like look at who from the client end is visiting your website, really going into your documentation, really looking into all these things. You combine all that, you create a report, right? Various reports within your dashboard saying, and if utilization, so let's say we have a customer who has 10 users, right? Out of those 10 users, we see that, okay, all 10 of them are using our platform for at least 20% every month. But then suddenly 1 month, or let's say 2 months in a row, you see that going down to 15%, 10%, or something like that, or a couple of users just not logging into the platform. That's where these tools can actually send you an automated red flag saying, hey, by the way, Simon's not using your platform. And we'll be
Yeah.
basically like, oh, wait a minute, what's happening there? Or suddenly one day, the worst nightmare, you open up, you a month late, you go to the monthly report and it shows that the customer has not used your platform at all in the last month. What does that tell you? That's your biggest red flag. Basically, they're leaving, right? How do you mitigate that? So you can have processes in place such as like, a 90-day renewal process. So 30 days before a customer is bound to renew, you start getting in touch with the customer. You prepare executive business reviews. You prepare strategic business reviews, quarterly business reviews. These are all the tools that you can have. You can really build into the CS platforms, which can allow you to. It makes the job of a CSM very programmatic, but at the same time, it makes it easier as well, right? It makes it easier to report, manage, and measure everything that a CS team is doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think if you've got just a small handful of enterprise customers, like, you could probably, you can navigate that, it's
absolutely.
a little bit easier. But as you say, if you're dealing in 20, 30, 50 accounts
Yeah,
that are all renewing at different dates,
yeah, yeah.
like, that's impossible to kind of really be efficient. Well, you'd have to be very organized.
Very,
So
very
that's really,
yeah,
yeah, that's really cool. Um,
yeah.
okay, look, in terms of AI, we talked about machine learning. Well, AI, big
Yeah,
topic in our space, yeah.
absolutely.
Um, how do you see? I mean, does Redpoint have any sort of AI capabilities, or how do you personally see, like, that AI machine learning impacting the space that we're in?
Very, it's very timely that you asked that question. Last week, I was superbly surprised to find out that we've now basically, I think, very soon you'll be basically going to Redpoint, type up, show me a segment of customers who match these criterias, like
Yep,
natural language processing, right? Redpoint is heavily invested into that, right? AI
cool.
and machine learning. So you use your data to build your AI models, you produce the results. Based on those results, you decide which models you want to create and train and start that machine learning, right? It, Redpoint is using AI and ChatGPT for support, right? Like we are looking through hundreds and hundreds of thousands of tickets over the history of the business and utilizing that information using AI to help support team and customers very, very quickly, right? So very exciting times, right? The way, and I'm not a techie, right? I cannot write a single line of code, right? I'm all business, all functional. But I think impact of AI on we are seeing impact of AI and machine learning very slowly but steadily on quite a few different organizations, right? Not just businesses verticals. I mean, the five key orgs: marketing, CS, sales, operations, all these guys, right? For Martech specifically, this is probably a very exciting time because imagine a marketeer just speaking to their machine and asking for a segment of customers that they want to market to, right? Or if they create that segment, if they ask the machine that, hey, show me everyone who's bought this product in the last month, right? If it doesn't throw promising results, they know they don't need to act on it, right? They know that they need to find something else that they can market to, or find another segment, right? Sorry.
It's okay.
So, and also having worked with gradient ascent, right? I do understand that you have to look past the hype. What is the cost of using AI? It's not cheap, right? In no way, shape, or form it's cheap. It's going to be a very long journey before it becomes a part of our everyday life, or every business starts utilizing it. It's not at that level yet, right? Cloud originally super expensive. Today, is it the same? No, right? So it's like that. For with any kind of technology, you have to make sure that you understand that, yeah, everyone's talking about AI, but is it really feasible to use? I mean, I'm lucky. I consider myself lucky because at Redpoint, I'm seeing that every day now.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's really cool.
yeah. And it leads to hyper personalization. Every customer can have a different email.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think if used in the correct way with the right use case,
Yeah,
amazing opportunities
absolutely.
can be driven from product innovation. I mean, I see I just need to refresh my LinkedIn after this. I'm sure another company will be, bedding AI or chat GPT into their product roadmap,
Yeah,
new launch, new product update.
absolutely.
So it'd be interesting to see how companies, and going back to your point about, best of breed, because it has to be in the product somewhere. I think,
Yes,
I
100%.
think if you don't, you're going to be a laggard, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But look, I think there's, again, that's such a kind of force magnifier if you get it right for your customer base within the verticals that you're specific within, bespoke to that use case.
Yeah,
So it's really, really cool. So do you personally see it as, because some people see it as a risk, like to their jobs or to their day-to-day lives,
yeah,
or like even like professional worth, right?
yeah,
But do
yeah.
you see it as a risk or an actual enabler?
So we just discussed Martech, right? Like for
Yeah.
Martech, AI is brilliant. Let me explain to you by giving an example of how AI can impact customer success, right? Short answer, absolute enabler, right? I want AI to be able to tell a CSM who's dealing with 400 accounts that how they can actually identify 20 out of those 400 which are at an imminent risk of churning, right? Can we train AI models to do that? Absolutely. We've got historic data, we've got the indicators, we can build all that into the models. So I do not see it as a risk. I think it's an absolute enabler in terms of how it can help CS org, Martech, a lot of other organizations.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah.
And that's what I like to hear. People, when I have on this show,
Mhm.
I think maybe because they are quite forward-thinking people in general,
Yeah.
like, and they, you're being very modest, but you've seen a lot. You see this in action every day. But I think I do generally see it as being a real true enabler if used in the right way,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, you touched upon the kind of the 100, like from 20 to 150 people in companies in your specific space.
Mhm.
But how do you see, with the changes in the market, the current climate, how do you see the market consolidating and evolving, more generally speaking, in the Martech space?
So I saw the first round of consolidation in 2020, right? I was a part of it. I know
Yeah.
it can be painful for a lot of people. Down markets are never good for any businesses, right? The way I see it is 20, and I think I touched upon it earlier during our chat. 2023 and 24 will be, tough years.
Mm.
Everyone knows that. Everyone sees that. Everyone's experiencing that, right? And there are a lot, and I know about a lot of businesses in the market, smart tech space, especially CDPs, uh, who have re- a huge amounts of investments, right? From investors, venture capitalists, all sorts of people have poured money into CDPs uh, during the heyday, which was not far long ago, right? It was 2020, 2021. So we are literally talking in the last, just over last 2 years. Now and then, and everyone got into the habit of really, really burning cash, right? Like brilliant marketing, lots of freebies, attending every single show, lots of talks, lots of noise on the internet, SEO, this, that, and the other, right? Um, what if that does not translate into the success that it should, right? There's macroeconomic situations, economies globally are unpredictable, right? US is expanding but contracting at the same time. UK, we know it's the inflation is sky high. Europe, unfortunately, there's the war scenario, along with the economies shrinking. So what if that doesn't lead to, that's where you'll start seeing. So I think mid 2024 or towards by before the end of 2024 is when you'll start seeing a lot of these changing actually taking place. I'm not saying it's nice for anyone. Yeah, it might be successful for someone is able to get a good exit, great for them. But really worry about some of these businesses who might really just disappear, right? So yeah, worst case scenario. But at the same time, I do think that a consolidation always leads to the best of the breed, the strong players, the consistent players, right, who are always bootstrapped, always thinking about the future. These are the people who will really succeed in the CDP market space.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, there's always winners and losers in any space. You really, flush out
Yeah.
companies within nobody's buying nice to haves at the
No.
moment. It's all must have technology, huge amount of due diligence. And you're right, look, pressure around VCs that have invested who aren't seeing the return because, the best sales guy in the world can't influence a project being either cancelled or delayed sometimes.
No, they cannot.
That
No.
isn't something that they can influence,
No.
even with the kind of all the urgency and running the right sales methodology and everything else, right? And we're seeing that. I'm speaking to people every day. I mean, I don't know if I really classify these guys as one of the kind of like faux CDPs at all, because they're considered probably one of the biggest and best companies in the world in this space. But you only have to look at yesterday, like Twilio and Segment announced another massive round of redundancies.
Yes.
I don't know what that means. I mean, like, maybe it's just the overall Twilio organization that's having to resize, but there's lots of changes at the
Yeah.
moment. So I hope it's sooner than mid 2024.
Yeah.
But we're certainly seeing a few more green shoots. But yeah, it's been it's definitely an interesting time.
Yeah. I was kind of in my head. I was referring to the when I said that we're looking at acquisitions or worst case scenario
Yeah.
bankruptcies. I was kind of thinking of the first thing I saw this morning on LinkedIn was Twilio announces another round, and I was like, oh my god, that's painful.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been made redundant 3 times, right? 2008 recession, 2020 pandemic, and the down market in 2022, right? I've gone through all. It's never easy. One thing I'd like to share is after my first redundancy, an amazing leader, he's based in Canada. He basically told me, Rajiv, whenever you get made redundant, you always come out on the other side a lot better. And it has been extremely true for myself, right? Every time I've come out a lot better out of a redundancy, and you just have to believe in that.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
Might not seem like it at the moment, but anybody that's looking for a job right now, just try and hold on to that little anecdote there. I think will get better. I'm conscious of time because I think we're running up, but let's rattle through. We've got a few more to kind of get through.
Okay.
In terms of sort of disruptive areas, just quickly, like we talked about AI. Are there any other areas that you think that people should keep an eye out in the technology space?
I would repeat, at the risk of repeating myself, and I am repeating myself, AI and machine learning, right?
Machine learning,
it's not about just the things bits and pieces you hear, right? It's about how organizations are using it, right?
Yeah.
You have to use it the right way to get the right results out of it. So again, definitely something to look out for.
Okay, cool. We've talked about all of the really positive things that you've been involved with, right? And the great managers and you've come into these companies at really cool times, I must admit, which Anybody looking at Reggie's profile and follows the funding cycles and the space will know. What are the mistakes? Are there any threads? What are the kind of like, what are the things that you might see that are kind of commonplace that people make mistakes around when building and scaling customer success and professional services teams?
Absolutely. I've seen a lot of mistakes, which I think, I mean, again, I'm not a CEO, I'm not a founder, right? But then sometimes you look at something and you're like, wait a minute, you shouldn't have done that, right? Like you just tell
Yeah.
yourself very, very, very silently, right? So sometimes, yes, introducing, founders go to their own clubs, their own seminars, their own webinars, whatever, right? And they'll hear something really good, which they believe would have a great impact on their business. But at the ground level, right, or even at
Mm.
a mid-tier level, you're thinking about, wait a minute, we just went through a change 6 months ago. Why are you putting the business through another change? Have we actually grown that much that you need to go through that change, right? So yeah, I've gone through changes, and some of them have been brilliant, some of them have been quite unnecessary, right? Also, culture, right? I've seen businesses, the culture at various places change overnight, literally
Mhm.
overnight, and that's had a very negative impact on the people that work for the business. When people are working for your business, they're dedicated. I naturally assume that everyone is 100% dedicated to their jobs, right? Like you are 100% invested. That's what pays your bills. You are thankful for that job. But if the culture, if the employees don't feel that, it can be devastating, right? Like, and having been through 3 layoffs, I've seen that happen to people where you lay off the wrong person, it just doesn't go down well, right? So for the morale of the rest of the business, right? So
Mm.
yeah, 100%. Hmm.
You talked about culture there. So, you know, in a dispersed or hybrid or remote setting, that's a difficult thing to kind of optimize and grow and embody.
Yeah.
How have you managed to kind of, you know, make it a fun and great and enjoyable place to work?
So absolutely. I mean, I don't know. One thing I did mention was I've been working from home since 2019, right? This was
Mhm.
way before pandemic. I've always been a remote worker. Personally, I'm very used to it.
Yep,
One thing I try to do is I always have a set time to talk to my team individually, but not about work at all, right? Just talk
it's
about,
nice.
I've just bought a new house. Where do I get this piece of furniture from? What's happening with your life? How's your dog doing? How's your kids doing? How's your family doing? How are you doing? Right? That has really helped me always, right? It has always, I've always received feedback from both sides of above me and my team that uh, that 30 minutes really matters, right? I read it in a book. I don't even remember which one, but it just said, and it just made sense for me to do that. And I've done that ever since I stepped into a leadership role. And it has really, really helped me manage my team. You have to be sensitive to culture. I mean, I have a little bit of an advantage. I come from a different country, different culture, different religion. It helps me to portray myself as someone who's really sensitive to everyone's culture, everyone's time zones, everyone's way of living, right? You just have to be respectful of that. If you don't understand that, if you don't respect that, it's extremely easy to lose your team, right? This is how you really build trust within your team, make them feel as an actual family. I mean, it's very cliche. I know during these multiple rounds of layoffs that have happened, people are like, you know, if you're family, you don't really fire your family. So I've stopped calling it that. No, we're not family, but we are colleagues who spend a lot of time together, right? And we need to trust ourselves, trust each other 100% to be able to make a successful team, to be able to keep everyone happy.
I can get a real sense for how you are as a manager through this conversation. It's nice. You talked about empathetic, behavior, but almost throughout the whole conversation,
Yeah,
being sensitive, being aware,
yeah,
being self-aware. I think that's just a great way to be, everybody's learning, nobody's perfect,
No,
right? But
no,
this kind of blunt object, cookie cutter
Mhm.
way of managing nowadays, probably more so in a remote setting,
Yes.
because it's just one-to-one, isn't it?
Yes.
You're not in an office environment anymore as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anybody listening, that's a great little tip. I mean, going back to that kind of the couple of reports that I read,
Mhm.
47% of CSMs experience burnout across their career. It's quite a high
Absolutely.
stat. It's a
Yeah.
very high stat.
Yeah.
So, actually having an understanding about, it's not just all about work. Like,
Mhm.
there's a person behind that, and there's a human element to this. I think
Yes.
is a great thing to try and bring that stat down.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. So last question. So look, there's lots of these communities, and there's lots of resources out there for customer success. I mean, I've talked about these reports a couple of times, but for any new kind of customer success leader or post-sales professional services leader that's coming into the space or graduating from the space, is there anything you can point them to, like, that might help and accelerate their learning, or how have you gone about fast tracking yourself in that regards?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I've fast tracked myself. To be honest, I've taken my time.
Okay.
I've spent a long time before I ever. I've been given the opportunity for leadership positions before, but it's up to you, right? It's about how ambitious you are. If you know you can step into a leadership position and be able to do good to your team in that position, only then step in, right? I mean, I only stepped in when I was really confident. It was not like I was, yeah, great for me, worked out really well, but you have to learn every rope in the book before you step, because it's an extremely important place from where a lot of people depend on you, right? So super important. Now, as far as learning and resourcing is concerned, I'll be extremely honest. As a super active dad of two, my time that I can actually dedicate to the resources and learning is super small. So what I tend to do is I tend to network very regularly, with all the leaders that I've worked for in the past, some of the team members that I've worked with in the past, and other key individuals. So, for example, Neil Brookman, Delanka, these guys, Jason, from
Yep.
Insider, right?
Yep.
All these guys, I really keep in touch with these guys. I make sure that I at least talk to them once a month, once a quarter, for
Cool.
30 minutes, right? Just to understand, hey, how are you managing this? How are you managing this problem? What's happening in your industry? What's happening in your business? Kind of things, and try and keep up to date that way rather than, some of my customers, actually, I go out with dinner with some of my customers who I worked with 10 years ago, but they are still
Yep.
friends, right? So that's how, and they are in like super high positions right now, but they really are these same type of, they've got this leadership style, right, where they're really empathetic and they know that we are a good group of people who want to really do some good for the team.
Yeah, cool.
Mhm.
We've had Jason and Neil on the show on
I'm
previous
aware,
episodes, so
yes.
that's cool. Yeah, that's great. We didn't even discuss that before, so that's
Yeah.
nice.
'Cause I worked
It's
with
funny
Jason at
how,
Exponia.
yeah, I was going to
Yeah.
say that. It's funny how it's such a big space, but actually not really.
No,
Like,
no,
everybody kind of knows everybody.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Great quote about leadership, right? It said leadership is a privilege that is earned and not a right. So going back to your point, it is a really important role,
Yeah.
and that's something that people should really not take for granted.
Mhm.
It sounds like, going back to all the rest of the conversation, you've held that true across your career, which builds that trust, which builds those relationships. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really, really good. Okay. Well, look, that's all the questions for now. I've just got just a little bit of fun to finish off the episode, right?
Sure. Sure.
Quick fire questions. The first answer, please. So we're just going to rattle through these. Yeah. So, favorite piece of tech or app you're using now?
Candy Crush.
Candy Crush, old school. iOS or Android?
iOS.
Good. Night at the disco or night at the restaurant?
Night at the restaurant.
Okay. Favorite food?
Steak.
Great. Favorite movie?
Um, it's there. There's quite a few, but I'd say Die Hard, Baby's Day Out, Home Alone.
Okay, cool. Okay, little trilogy. All right, favorite place that you've been on holiday or visited?
Maldives.
Read that a couple of times. Lovely.
Hmm.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Uh, a very nice whiskey on a Friday evening. Absolutely.
Right. Any specific whiskey that you're after?
Regular drinking, it's normally Glenfiddich, 15 years old. Once in a while, Edradour, 10 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If you had any superpower, what would it be and why?
It would be to get it would be teleporting so that I can basically whisk my kids from one room to another, to school and back home without any problems. And I've been discussing it at length with my 6-year-old for the last few days. So yes, teleporting.
Okay, bring the miles down on the car. Perfect.
Absolutely.
All right. So look, obviously health and safety is the most important thing first and foremost. But you know, your house, God forbid, your new house, the new lovely house that you just moved into, is burning down. You've got one personal item. What would it be and why?
Item or person?
Oh, personal item. Yeah, personal item. Yeah,
Personal
not
item.
person.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would be my whiskey collection.
Okay. Cool. Okay, great. Well, look, Rajiv, thanks very much for that. Look, some amazing stuff in there, content-wise. You know, just looking obviously future state and retrospective state of the space. So I'm sure people that are listening to this will be able to pull loads of really valuable insights from that experience. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Simon, for the opportunity. Loved having this chat. I really hope it helps a few people out there. Especially in this down market, it can be. We see on LinkedIn every day. It can be very depressing. It can be difficult, but we'll all get through, right? For the better. And thank you again, Simon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everything happens for a reason. Yeah, no, really welcome. Really welcome. That's great. For anybody that wants to get in touch with you, Rajiv, like what's the best way to do that? Is it through email, and if so, or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn is the best one. I mean, I check it more than any other social media platform throughout the day. So yeah, 100%. Connect with me on LinkedIn, send a personal message.
Cool. So if you want to,
all good. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, great. So when this goes live, so as you can see, Rajiv Gandhi over at Redpoint Global is the Director of Professional Services by title. We'll tag him in the post, but get in touch with him. If you want to learn anything more about him, about his story, or about Redpoint, importantly, and the cool stuff they're doing in the space and how they're sort of rising to the top of this space from my perspective and what I see and speak to people in the space about, that'd be really cool. All right. Nice to see you again, Rajiv. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Simon.